so good to see you. How are you doing?
Am I close enough to this?
Maybe bring it a little bit closer. Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm doing great. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you. I was just saying I've never had the chance to talk to you, but I've been a fan of your music for a long time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like people are probably even fans of your music, not even knowing that it's your music with being a songwriter and all of that too, right?
Yes. Maybe. I hope so.
Yeah. No, I haven't stopped listening to Chai and Sunshine.
Oh, thank you.
It's such a good song. It's so catchy. I can see why everyone's obsessed with it. Can you get into exactly how that song came to be?
Yeah. Well, I actually had the title in my notes. I have a lot of like just titles and concepts going around in my head. And I was in the studio with Janssen, who's the producer of the track I co-produced it with, and it just kind of came to me. We started making this like Afrobeat vibe, and then I just kind of freestyled the whole thing based off of this concept, Chai and Sunshine. So yeah, that's kind of how the making of it went. But in terms of the lyrical content, it's kind of been part of this journey of mine where I was I got off a major label. I started being independent for years, writing for their artists. And then I was like, what do I really want to say? What do I want to talk about? I've been working on a lot of like self-care and like just like meditating and journaling and taking time for mindfulness. And I started infusing those ideas into like bops, which is a little tricky because sometimes that stuff comes across as cheesy. But this one felt very inspired, and Chai and Sunshine is just a metaphor for living in the moment and not kind of like being so a slave to hustle culture, which I had really experienced when I was signed to a major label and just being in the industry. I think it gives you this sense that you're like never doing enough, So Chai and Sunshine is really just about like taking a breath and taking a beat and just like getting back to what I really wanted to say.
Yeah. What does your creative process typically look like? Because you mentioned like coming up with the title. Is that something that is a norm for you where you'll have the title before you'll get into the song?
Yeah. I love to just, if I hear something, like someone say something or I have an inspiring conversation or just like sometimes I'll have little muses like my best friend or someone I'm dating and I'll just kind of like pull that feeling in and subconsciously it'll come out when I'm writing that night or that morning. And so it's a fun way of kind of looking back and hearing a musical diary of where I was at. Because anytime I hear a song that I've written, I know like, oh, that was the headspace that I was in,
You can recall that
right
away. Yeah.
Maybe it's like how people post on Instagram. Like you go back like 2 years and you're like, oh yeah, that's why.
I like know exactly how I was feeling in that moment. And I know how, for me, it's like, I know how I edited it to make clear up my skin and all of those things.
Yes.
You touched on the stressfulness of the music industry and the hustle culture that comes with it. How has that journey been for you? Because you've been someone who's been in the music industry for a long time. You've also spoken about how traumatizing of an industry it can be, especially for songwriters. So how are you feeling now versus to maybe how you were feeling back then?
Well, I do think it's still very unfair for songwriters and songwriter rights and the way that DSPs kind of divvy out the royalties towards publishers and therefore songwriters. Like the trickle down economics of that is really brutal. And it's part of the reason why I became an artist again. Because when you're an artist, you own there's two parts of the song. One is the songwriting part and one is the master share, which is owned by the label and the artist. So if you're an independent artist and you own your own master and you're streaming very well, you can do well. But if you're just on the songwriting side, you're getting a very tiny piece of that pie. So I always encourage songwriters I know to try singing or featuring or just being a part of their master side of their song.
I feel like this also isn't something that I see a lot of artists or even songwriters talk about. I know the singer Ray, she's been speaking out about it,
yes,
which is really what opened my eyes to it because as someone who isn't in the industry, you don't know how it all operates. So do you ever feel reluctant to talk about stuff like that? Or is that, yeah, how do you feel?
I don't give care.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm not like trying to be the new girl signed to a label or trying to impress anybody. Like I really do feel like, okay, I have a confidence that I can, work a little bit outside the music industry as an independent artist and not have to curry so much favor with them or be like this cog in the machine in that way, which has been very freeing. And it's allowed me to really use my voice on social media and really be able to advocate for songwriters. And it's a system that I do think is broken in a lot of ways and needs to change.
Yeah. Do you see it changing at all?
Yeah, yeah, like there's little wins that we're making with the DSPs and all of that, but a lot of it isn't just the fight with the DSPs. It's with the actual labels, because those are the ones that are kind of bullying the publishers and songwriters out of a lot of the income streams. So yeah, I think it's gonna be tricky, not only with royalties for songwriters, but also with the advent of AI and how that impacts everyone. I mean, now it's really just about taste curation. Like if you have good taste, then you'll be able to use all the tools to be able to get from A to B creatively in a much faster way than you used to be able to do. Because you don't have to be able to find the exact synth sound that you want or have the exact vocal tone. You can AI all of that. So it'll now be much more about what you uniquely have to say and what your artistry really is, which I think is scary but also exciting.
Yeah. I was listening to a lot of radio, especially around the time of like Brand New Chick and You and I, and you were all over the place. You were everywhere. You really couldn't go anywhere without hearing your music. What do you remember most about that time, like 2011, 2012?
Yeah, I felt a little like, okay, so when I did go on tour in Canada and I would hear the crowd yelling my lyrics back, I was like, oh, this is working in a market. So that was very exciting. But I was so focused on being like this international, like I was signed to the label that had Drake and Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj. So those were the people I was being compared to. So even though my success felt big here, it wasn't like a win, if that makes sense. Like I still was like, none of this matters. And I regret that in retrospect, and that's why this time around it's really been nice to feel more grounded and embodied and accepting of who I am and where I'm at, to be able to like celebrate those wins. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who gets to talk to a lot of artists, the number one question that I guess get asked all the time is like, who's the nicest person that you've interacted with getting to rub shoulders with celebrities, with you having written songs with different artists and been in the industry as long as you have been, who is that person that you typically...
Wait, I'm very curious. What was your answer?
Probably Taylor Swift.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was really sweet. And Ed Sheeran too was just like...
Nice.
Acts like he's your best friend as soon as you meet him, and very much puts you at ease.
Yeah.
But yeah, who was that for you?
Nelly Furtado, I'd say, just because like she's been so influential on me and my writing and my career without even knowing it, with that first record and all of her records really. She's also so versatile, and that really inspired me. And so getting the opportunity to write with her for her A Single Eat Your Man last year or the year before last was very exciting, because I was like, okay, this is like she is literally like the one for me, you know?
Yeah. And then you joined her for her Tiny Desk, right?
Yes.
I spotted you as I was watching. I was like, oh, there you are.
Yeah.
How did that come to be? Did she just say, hey?
Well, we're friends.
Right,
Too.
okay.
So I keep my fangirling about her music to myself.
You don't tell her?
Well, she knows. She has an idea. Right. Like I watched her perform Eat Your Man at Oshiega, and I started bawling, and she was like, oh my gosh.
I love that. I was at that show too.
Oh, were you?
Yeah,
Okay,
so we were probably right near each other.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. I love that. You are one of the 2 grand prize recipients for the Her Music Awards.
Wow.
That's brought by SoCan Canada. So how did that feel to receive that honor? Because you just found that out, right?
Yeah, it happened last night. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I was not really expecting it. And SoCan was trying to get a hold of me to tell me that it was happening. And I was like, oh, like, you know, kind of thinking that I didn't fill out a form correctly for my PRO, which is like how you collect your royalties here. I thought it was like a very administrative question, and I was kind of like putting it off. And then she was like, "You won an award," and I was like, "Oh shit!" So yeah, it's amazing to be recognized, and again, now that I'm a lot more present, I feel like these things are actually impacting me differently. And I got to bring my mom. It was her birthday, and my family and my best friend since I was a kid, which was so special. So
that's so sweet, and really just celebrate it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so sweet. I love that. How's it been also? I see you pop up on TikTok all the time, and I can imagine there's so many people being like, oh my goodness, so good to see you. Like just like me before the interview, like I've been a fan for such a long time. So how is it reconnecting with fans in that way?
It's so nice. Yeah, I do. I love it. And yeah, I feel like the number one comment on those videos where I post old songs is like core memory or something, which I think is so sweet to be able to be part of. Because the thing is, like, even though I talk about the headspace that I was in for a lot of that music, I still was like writing about how I felt. And so Brand New Bitch, that especially, I had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, help me like get out of this relationship," or "Help me," just makes me feel good. And that's, I think it's like the most simple thing with music is to just try to make someone feel good.
Mm.
But it's also the hardest thing to do a lot of the time, because like getting a good bop with a message that's not like super toxic is always something that I'm trying to walk, you know.
That's good. And it's how sweet that people still to this day can take from that and relate to it. That's like
Yeah.
the power of music.
Yeah, it's so true.
That's so sweet. Is there one particular song that people are always surprised to learn that you had a hand in writing?
I think maybe Eat Your Man, but I wrote the first song, one of the first songs I ever wrote was a song called Don't Call Me Baby
Oh, yeah.
for this artist named Krisha Turner,
Yep.
who I love and is awesome. And so that was the first time I was ever on radio at all. It was through another artist. So I really started from this songwriter background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so sweet. If that song like comes on and you're around people, do you go, I wrote that? Or do you keep that to yourself?
I think I did that once in front of my niece at a movie theater, and she cringed so hard that I was like, let me never do this again.
That's so funny. Yeah, I get that. My sister tried to explain to my niece that I talk on the radio. So she was like pointing it out when I was on the radio one time, but then Taylor Swift started singing. So then she was like, my niece couldn't understand. She was like, this is Aunt Shannon? Like, doesn't understand it at all. So it's similar in the way where they're like, I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Why are you doing something important?
Yeah, humbles you for sure. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. It's so nice to chat with you, and
Me
congrats on
too.
everything.
Thanks a lot.
Amazing. Great.